Karen, are you ready?
Just give us 1 second.
Is it better or worse than this one?
I'm not sure.
That's it.
All set? Okay, we will call this Winnebago County Board of Adjustment hearing, or public hearing to order for November 28th, 2023. We'll begin by introducing ourselves. I am Greg Cargus from the town of Oshkosh.
Tom Tuschel, Tom Rondo.
Tom Verstegen, Town of Black Wolf.
A decision will not be issued tonight. That'll be next week, Thursday, December 7th. You can call the zoning office anytime after 9 o'clock in the morning to hear our decision. Anyone wishing to give testimony this evening will need to be sworn in prior to giving such testimony, and Karen will take care of that. I guess that's it. Tonight, we are hearing an appeal of a permit denial on a property located at 4532 Bellhaven Lane, and I'll have the legal description read.
Legal description being all of Law 1 of CSM 7621. Located in Government Law 2, Section 7, Township 18 North, Range 16 East, Town of Algoma, Winnebago County, Wisconsin.
Okay, the applicant is JEL LLC, and anyone here to represent them this evening?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
Jane
hold on,
Lynn.
we have to-
Hold on 1 second, guys. We gotta
Sorry.
read the appeals process.
You can appeal the appeal?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought this was the appeal. Sorry. I
Starts.
apologize.
Alright. So the appeals process, Board of Adjustment 1, an aggrieved person may appeal a final decision made by the Board of Adjustment by filing an appeal with the court of competent jurisdiction within 30 days of the final decision.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. This is our first appeal, by the way, so. Okay, who's representing the applicant?
I am,
Please swear
yeah, I'm Jane Landretti with Stafford Rosenbaum, and my witness that I have here tonight is Mark Neubauer with Ganther Construction.
you need to have her sworn in, Karen, correct? No, yes or no?
I could swear in, but maybe it should be my
Whoever
witness.
whoever is going to speak needs to be sworn in prior to giving testimony,
Okay,
everybody. So,
Okay, just why don't you both
okay,
you solemnly swear the statements you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name
Jane Landretti,
and
222 West Washington Avenue, Madison.
Mark Neubauer, 481 Oak Park Drive, Oshkosh, 54904.
All right, so I'll call Mark Neubauer to the stand. Which, where, is there a preferred place for
no,
a
it
video?
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, okay. Is that okay? Okay.
maybe come closer if that's.
And I'm gonna pass out what I have marked as Exhibit A, and I've got a copy here too.
I got it.
Yeah, okay, okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have an extra one. Might as well just give you one if you
Thank you.
like there. All right, so you're just gonna stand there? Oh, okay, okay. I don't think I can stand behind you or sit behind you.
You guys can sit down.
Yeah, you don't have to
Yeah, you don't
stand.
need to stand. You're not on trial.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what's marked as Exhibit A here, because we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but first I'll ask you to state your name and occupation.
Mark Newbauer, I'm the construction project manager
And where are you employed?
at Ganther Construction.
Okay, and what role did you play in the design and the construction of
The role I-
Mr. Lindeman's retaining wall?
The role I played as the project manager was to hire the design consultant for the civil design and hire the purchase of materials and hire the landscape contractor.
And based on your role, do you know the site well enough to testify tonight to a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
Yes,
Okay. Are you familiar, I'm gonna ask you to look at the document that you've got there marked as Exhibit A. Can you describe what that is? So on the first page is the application, but I'll ask you to turn to the second page actually,
Okay.
because that's what I'm gonna ask you about.
okay, yes, this is a drawing of the site plan.
Okay, and you're familiar with this?
Yes,
And did you help draft this?
yes, I had Zilgis Landscaping produce this drawing and add dimensions to it.
All right, and you've got a very large map next to you that you brought in. Can you describe what that is?
Yeah, this is our site survey drawing from Martinson Isley. So this is the actual civil drawing that we built the project off of.
Okay, and for purposes of reference, does that survey map, is that accurately, does that depict the same thing that we see here on the site plan?
Yes, it's
Okay,
very similar.
So if I ask you to look on the bigger version of it so that we can see a little better, does it have all of the same dimensions if we would look on the bigger version?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so then I'll ask you to look on the bigger version for the questions that I'm gonna ask you next, because I want to ask you a few facts about the structure at the site. And specifically whether it qualifies for a special zoning permission under the statutes and under the Winnebago County ordinance. Can you please identify the ordinary high water mark? And could you do it on the survey map so that the board members could see? And then maybe also show us on the exhibit, the site plan exhibit that we have, so everybody can see.
the ordinary high watermark I have highlighted in red here is down by the lake. Direction. So the high watermark is highlighted in red.
Great, okay, and so can you tell us where the closest, can you point to the part of the structure of the retaining wall that's closest to the ordinary high water mark?
The retaining wall, the furthest radius part of the retaining wall is 35 to 36 feet from the high water mark.
Okay, so it's fair to say you're comfortable testifying that it's 35 feet or more from the ordinary high water mark, even at the point where it's nearest
Yes,
to the ordinary high water mark. Okay, so the second of the factors that we were looking at when we were asking about a special zoning permission relates to whether a structure has a floor. And so I wanted to ask you, is there anything about this retaining wall that would resemble a floor or that anybody could reasonably consider to be a floor?
no, there's no floor.
Okay, and so what does the wall sit on then?
The wall sits on a granular base. So
Okay.
it's just a granular material.
Okay, and then the third statutory factor and the third factor under the Winnebago County ordinance for the special zoning permission is that a structure may not be enclosed. Is there any portion of the retaining wall that you would describe as having any kind of enclosure?
No,
And what about any sides? Does it have any sides that you would, I mean, obviously a retaining wall has a side. Is it fair to describe that side as being open?
I don't describe that as having sides, it's a radius retaining wall.
Okay, okay, perfect. I mean, no enclosure
No.
is, you're comfortable testifying that there's
Correct.
no kind of enclosure.
Yes.
Okay. And then the final factor in the statutes and the ordinance asks about the vegetative buffer zone. And this is a little bit technical here, but the standard that we're looking at is whether it covers 70%, whether that vegetative buffer zone covers 70% of the half of the shoreline setback area that's nearest the water. So maybe we can kind of talk through this, how it relates to this site plan. Can you just point out the shoreline setback area? So going back from the ordinary high water mark back landward.
So the setback area is 75 feet back from the shoreline, the high water mark.
And I'm gonna interrupt you and just make sure that all the board members can
Yeah.
see what you're pointing to here.
So 75 feet is the setback. And then the retaining wall is within that 75 feet, which is 35 feet or more from the high water mark.
Okay, so if we just look at the half of the shoreline setback area, the half that's waterward, the half of the shoreline setback area that's waterward, what percentage of that would you say is covered by the vegetative buffer zone?
Approximately 80%.
Okay, so fair, your testimony is that it is 70% or more.
Yes.
Okay. And you were able to give all of these opinions to a reasonable degree of professional certainty based on your experience with the site?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Neubauer, I just have a couple of questions, and I'd really like to focus on the third element that Attorney Lindbergh was asking you concerning whether the structure has open sides. Would you acknowledge that a wall has sides?
Yeah, I guess you could say that the end of a wall, end of a stone wall has an end wall.
Well, what about a side that can be viewed from the lake?
There is no side that can be viewed from the lake.
So if you're sitting in a boat, looking at this property, right, with a retaining wall in front of you, would you say the retaining wall is in fact a side?
I would say if you had four sides, the retaining wall. would
No, I'm
be
not
at
talking
one
about four, I'm talking about one side, because all you need is a side.
side. Yep, okay,
Yeah, and I believe your attorney acknowledged that obviously a retaining wall has a side.
okay,
But, so would you admit that a wall has a side?
yes.
I have no further questions.
Okay, just one on redirect then. So since the statutory standard is that any side must be open, we'll just return to this. So we established that it has a side. Is there any sort of enclosure anywhere on any of those sides?
No,
Okay, so it's fair to say that the sides are open.
yes.
Okay,
Um,
I'm done, thanks.
And on further redirect, when the statute indicates that the structure that is the subject of the request for special zoning permission has no sides or has open or screen sides, it says has no sides. Would you say, again, if you're sitting in a boat looking at this property and there is a retaining wall in front of you, there is a side of a wall facing you, a side of a retaining wall?
Would be a front face of the retaining wall.
I have no questions.
I have a question. We were out to the property about a month ago. And the retaining wall is made out of the limestone.
It's some kind of a stone.
Stone.
I don't remember if it's a Blue
Okay.
Harbor stone or,
Do you know what the size of the sizes of the stone, do they vary?
yes, they vary.
Would you happen to know? No, I'm just assuming that the top of the wall would be, in my estimation, the floor area. Say if you had a patio kind of a thing, just made of stone, that would be the floor area, correct?
Well, if I was building, I would build it higher than the grade at the top of the wall.
I mean, what I'm getting at is the stone, I think, I don't know how big they are, but they're fairly good size. Would you know the total square footage of the surface area?
The
The
total,
horizontal
the
surface
total
area?
square footage of the top of the wall, I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you took a 1 foot by whatever the length of the wall is.
Yeah, they're only 1 feet. 1 foot.
Well, once you get the grade, once the grade is backfilled, you may see anywhere from 1 foot to 1.5 feet.
Okay. And what is the length of the wall? Roughly?
I don't have that dimension handy here. Say anywhere from 60 to 90 feet.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the width. I'd say somewhere around 80 feet.
About 80, okay, thank you. I also have another question, and either one of you can answer it, or both can answer it if you'd like. I think one of the issues here was the definition of structure. Is that not correct?
Well, I don't recall that being an issue in the denial. Certainly, there was an issue in the denial letter about whether this was an all-inclusive list. But I don't recall anything that implicated the definition of the structure in the denial.
I would say that if you look at the relevant portion of the statute, which if we go to, and I'm not talking about the code, even the code essentially mirrors the statute.
Correct.
But the statute says a county shall grant special zoning permission for the construction or placement of a structure on property in a shoreline setback if all of the following apply. And as Attorney Waldretti just went through the 4 elements.
Right.
So that you presumably need a structure. And if you go to the definition of structure, it has structure means a principal structure or any accessory structure, including a garage, shed, boathouse, sidewalk, stairway, walkway, patio deck, retaining wall, porch, or fire pit. So in other words, in order to fit into the 59.6921B section of the statute, you need a structure. And they have defined a retaining wall as a structure.
Okay, so we're all
We're
clear
all
on
in
that.
agreement on that.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay, I wasn't sure about that.
That's
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you,
it's a great question.
thank you.
Yeah, it is.
So is the whole, for our benefit, is the whole, or one of the main issues here, defining if this structure has sides or not? Pretty much boils down to
I
the,
would say
Question?
that's a significant.
So, yeah, it's not just the question of if it has a side though. If it has a side, the side must be open is what the statute says. So it's not a deal breaker that we call it a side.
okay,
It just cannot be an enclosed side is our position.
And our position, looking at the wording of the statute, is the structure that is the subject of the request for special zoning permission has no sides or has open or screen sides. So there's.
So if you, right, so if you agree that with our position that these sides are open, we think we qualify for the exemption because they are open sides. There's no enclosure. There needs to be an enclosure to make a side anything other than open. That's our position.
In our position, and obviously I have my witnesses to go through this.
Yep.
Is if that were the case, would it have said has no sides and has open or screen sides? it says or under 59,692, 1B.
And, and I can get into this further when we call up Dan, but our position is going to be that the statute and the ordinance say structures such as, and then gives certain examples, you know, gazebos and 3 other types of structures, but that it's very important that the county just look at that such as language, and those kinds of structures that follow are just examples, and that such as language is never meant to be an exhaustive or an inclusive list. So the fact that there are the fact that there are examples in the statute doesn't mean that this retaining wall is ineligible for the exception, is our position.
I guess that gives me a question. If there was on another property, a retaining wall that expanded out so that you could see both sides, do we now have an open structure?
I mean, I think we have an open structure now. I think we have an open structure anytime there's no enclosure. You know, I don't know what open can mean other than not enclosed. And if it's ambiguous, then I think the county has to read it in favor of the free use of property.
Is there a definition under 59.692 of an open structure by chance?
There's a definition of structure.
Right, yeah,
But not
I
open
saw that,
structure.
right, yep, okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if they further define that or not, okay, thank you. Would your client have any objection to maybe one of us or all of us going back out to the property and doing this again at any time?
I'm sure
Any
he
given time?
would welcome that.
Okay, I mean, we just go out there unannounced and just take a look at it. That's all right,
I think that's fair to say.
okay, thank you. What was the timeline of all this, from beginning to end, from when from the permit application, when the wall was built, to when the denial was issued? What was the
So
timeline?
I believe the timeline, I originally started on the project, I believe in April through April of 2022, as far as our design goes. We didn't actually start construction until I believe July or August of 2022.
I'm just
So-
talking about the retaining wall.
As far as the retaining wall, that was I want to say June of 2023. I have to look at the dates, see when I received the violation notice.
So you started the wall prior to the permit process?
Well, and that's where where my mistake came in. I thought I had plans that were reviewed and approved through the permit process through the county and through the local municipality. Not realizing that a retaining wall was required to be reviewed.
Okay.
I had Martinson Isley is our civil designer.
Mhm.
I had asked them 3 or 4 times whether I could put a retaining wall within 75 feet of the water, and they gave me the answer, yes. So it never crossed my mind I had to resubmit for plan review and approval.
Mr. Neubauer is so humble. My position would be that because it's exempt, it wouldn't have had to go through the review process to begin with. But
I wasn't familiar with the requirements of the 75 feet.
Okay.
I just know that I'd asked the question of our our professional that I had hired to give me the answers, and they told me I could do that, but they failed to tell me that I had to resubmit
Thank you.
until I received the violation.
So originally the project was planned without such a wall,
Correct.
and the grade was just gonna continue.
The grade was a steep grade. So, and that's where during the construction process to construct the building, I'd build the grade out around the house so we could use our lifts to construct the building. But when the owner saw that grade built out, then he's like, well, can I leave it? And that's when I asked the question to the civil engineer saying, hey, can we leave the grade where I have it? And they said they had no objections. We could leave the grade there. But now, keep in mind, the house is, I want to say 80, over 80 feet from the high water mark, which is outside the 75 feet. So our grade was built up within the 75 feet. And, you know, when we saw the grade there, he's like, well, this would be nice to keep it flat. So when you walk out the patio, you're not going right down a steep slope. And so that's when he asked if we could put a retaining wall out there. And I had made the phone calls and I was told I could.
So the original plan then was to remove everything that was brought in.
Correct. The plan was to change the grades back to the steep grade.
Yeah, I saw that. But,
Shows it on.
yeah, it's pretty steep.
Yeah, so yeah, these are the original. So it is not desirable to have a steep slope like that. And the retaining wall made sense, and I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, I go.
Yes, please.
It's gonna be there.
You solemnly swear the statements you're about to give. Nothing but the truth.
I do. Daniel LaFave,
Can you spell the last name?
LEFE, B as in boy, V as in Victor, R.
And Dan, are you
Oh, sorry,
the assistant zoning administrator for Winnebago County?
I am,
And how long have you worked for the Winnebago County Planning and Zoning Department?
for over 3 years.
So this is an appeal from a decision to deny special permission for retaining wall located in a shoreline setback area. Is that right?
Correct.
And the concerns involve this property located at 4532 Bellhaven Lane. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And I know there was reference to the original site plan and the zoning permit. Can you look at this and tell me what that is?
this is the Winnebago County zoning permit I approved on 8/25/2022 for JEL LLC, construction of a house and attached garage.
So this was the original permit.
That's a copy of it.
This is the only copy I got, so I just wanted to show it to you.
Thank you. Yep, well,
Yeah.
Oh,
We've got two.
would you pass it to them since they-
thanks.
Yeah.
So they just see the exhibits in a stack here. Oh, thank you.
and you will see the original drawing shows no reference to the retaining wall.
Correct.
As Mr. Bauer testified.
Page 4 will show that.
Yeah.
Now, can you outline for the board the events that led to this appeal?
Sure. So from the beginning, we received and reviewed the zoning permit,
Which they are looking
which
at.
you're looking at. It was approved Then we happened to be out on a neighboring site just down the way. Noticed that there was a large retaining wall at this property.
And let me show you what has been marked as exhibit number.
Thank you.
Can you also pass these out to? So looking at exhibit number 1, is this what you saw when you were out on the property and noticed a retaining wall?
Yes,
And it's that essentially the wall with someone standing on top of it?
correct. The closed wall with something on top of it.
And so when you saw that, what was the next thing you did?
The next thing we did was we went back to the office to review. From there, we had a phone conversation. I believe Mark,
Yes,
and then we sent a follow-up email from there.
And was there reference to having a meeting to try to get things resolved?
There was, and we did meet 6/21 of 23, so June 21st of 23 at 2 p.m. up at our office.
And who did you meet with?
I had Mark, and I believe I had Ben in there. I can't remember the others.
Who, Ben?
Ben Gamper, yeah.
Okay. And Jane?
No, Jane was not part of this. Joy at that.
And so what did the meeting consist of?
Just talking about potential solutions, what they can and can't do with the property.
Based on the code? and the
Based on the
statute?
code and statutes and what they had out there after that.
Because this was not supposed to be there, or you
Correct.
didn't know anything.
No, it was approved as what you see on the existing zoning permit. The retaining wall there was not.
So you discussed solutions. What were the solutions you discussed?
Mainly removing the wall.
So you relayed that to Mr. Ganther, Mr. Neubauer,
Correct.
and then what was the response?
From there, I think it was a couple days, and then we heard from Attorney Crane.
I'm actually going to object to respectfully to the whole line of questioning that talks about the background and the conversations, because really the appeal here is very simple, and it really does relate to those 4 statutory criteria. And really the conversations that led up to this point are irrelevant, and they're not included in the county's denial. The only reason for the county's denial is that it wasn't an open-sided structure. And so I just wanted to put my objection in the record. I
And-
appreciate you might want to hear.
And I
I
would
wanna hear it
say,
anyway.
in response to that, that the board was asking about the history that led up to this. So that's why there are questions, so that you will have a full record regarding your decision. So in any event, so you received a letter from Mr. Lindemann's attorney on July 10th, 2023. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is this the letter?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is the.
And can we send this to? Caleb, can you pass this out? And in that letter, does Attorney, again, Landretti, reference the Wisconsin statute 59,692, 1E?
One year.
Well, she
Oh,
referenced
one,
one,
yes,
well, it's 1E, but also at the very bottom, it's 1B.
one read both, yes.
She does. Okay.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Number 16. Oh, there's both sides.
And let me show you.
That's 59.
It's 92.
Thank you.
I'm showing you what's marked now as exhibit 12. And this section of the statute, 59.6921B, that pertains to the retaining wall that we are looking at.
Correct.
Okay. And does it say that basically all of the following need to apply if the county is going to be granting a special zoning permission?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And all of the following includes C, which is the structure that is the subject of the request for special zoning permission has no sides or has open or screen sides. Is that correct?
Correct.
And again, Mr. Lindeman's attorney referenced that. So once you received Attorney Landry's response, did you reply to her request for a special exception?
I did after consulting with Terry Rowe. our zoning administrator.
I'm showing you an email, and it is dated July 18th from you to Attorney Landretti. It is marked exhibit number 4. So, this is number 4. Is this a response that you submitted to Attorney Landretti? And did you basically say that a retaining wall did not qualify as an open-sided or screen structure?
I did.
And then you indicated that the retaining wall had to be removed completely by August 1st, 2023.
I
Is that
did.
correct?
Yeah.
So you sent that email, and then the next item in the chain of events was a letter from Attorney Landretti dated July 24th. I'm showing you exhibit number 5 to the Winnebago County clerk.
Yes.
Yeah. And was that, can you tell us what that represented again? Was it essentially a repeat of what was earlier stated?
Yes.
And how did you receive this? Because,
The county clerk sent this up to our office with our attention.
and then once you were notified of that, did you engage in further communication via email with Attorney Landretti
I did, yes.
regarding the issues?
Yes.
Let me show you. Are these the communications that you have engaged with Attorney Landretti?
Yes, they are.
So it's not as if, I mean, there was a constant communication back and forth.
There were.
And then what did you tell Attorney Landretti that needed to be done, if anything?
I said a zoning permit had to be submitted so we could formally review it, and then if we so choose, deny it, and then that would go, or that could be appealed.
And did she file an appeal application?
Yes.
Let me show you what's been marked as exhibit number 7. Is this the administrative appeal application?
It is.
And it said, please see attached. Was the attachment in Attorney Landretti's letter of June or July, was it 24th? Yeah, 24th.
I believe so.
It was attached.
It was. I can look at the application. One second. July 24th, yes.
So you denied the special permission for the retaining wall located in the shoreland setback area.
I did after consulting with Harry Rower, zoning administrator.
And what was the decision based on?
It came down to that the retaining wall did not have open sides.
In fact, it had sides.
Correct.
Now, let me refer you to Exhibit A, which is the section of the Winnebago County Code that references shoreland setbacks. Exhibit number 8. Can you read for the zoning board of adjustment under 6.1 shoreline setbacks? Under sub 1, which talks about exempt structures, under B, there are 4 provisions that relate to that section of the code. Is that correct?
Correct.
And do those 4 sections essentially mirror Wisconsin statute 59-692-1B?
They do.
Can we look at section B3? And can you read that language to the board?
The structure that is subject of the request for a special zoning permission has no sides or has open or screened sides.
And then I'm also going to be showing you another portion of the shoreline zoning code, which is the definition section. This is Exhibit 9. Does the retaining wall fall within the definition of accessory structure?
It does.
And that's listed under 15 sub 2. And then is there also an actual definition of retaining wall in the definition section?
Yes,
And what number is that?
21.
And what does that say?
Retaining wall means a structure designed to restrain soil to unnatural slopes.
So would you say your decision was reached by speaking with the zoning administrator, looking at the Winnebago County General Code and the Wisconsin statutes, and basically concluding, looking at exhibit number 1, that this retaining wall had a side?
Correct. Closed side. It wasn't open.
Did you reach out to outside agencies
We
to
did,
get their opinion?
we did reach out to the Wisconsin DNR for their input as well.
Okay. And is that something you do on a regular basis?
It is.
I am showing you what has been marked as exhibit number 10. And I would ask you to read that into the record.
So this is dated November 27th, 2023, to the Winnebago County Board of Adjustment and the Winnebago County Courthouse. The subject is JEL LLC Property Decision Appeal in the Town of Algoma, Winnebago County. It states, dear board members, the Department of Natural Resources, the department has received the notice of a public hearing concerning the appeal of a decision made by Winnebago County Planning and Zoning staff denying a permit for a retaining wall located within the 75-foot shore yard setback area of a navigable waterway. The property is located at 4532 Bellhaven Lane, Town of Algoma, tax parcel number 002-0010-0301. Winnebago County has a compliant ordinance according to statute 59-692 and chapter NR 115 Wisconsin Administrative Code. In this current JEL LLC property case, the department concurs with the application of the county shoreline zoning ordinance regarding retaining walls, which are not listed as exempt from the 75-foot setback from the ordinary high water mark in NR 115, section 59-692, 1B. Statute states that special zoning permission is allowed for structures that meet the conditions listed under 1BA through D. Condition 1BC states that structure has no sides or has open or screen sides. A retaining wall is defined in section 59-692-1 statute, Wisconsin statute, as an accessory structure that has a side. The county has applied the rules correctly according to the statute and their ordinance, chapter 27, section 6.1. The department therefore supports the permit denial decision and the determination and interpretation of the ordinance, chapter 27, section 6.1 and 6.1B, 6.11B, made by the county zoning office. Please note that these comments are in regard to shoreline zoning only. Sincerely, Dale Rezabec, PG Shoreline Specialist.
And he's with the DNR.
He is with the Wisconsin DNR.
And is there anything else of import that you believe the zoning board of adjustment needs to know in making its decision?
I would just like to state that this is not just an issue for this property. All retaining wall issues are for every property in the county. So whatever you state in your decision applies to the entire county, not just this property.
I am missing exhibit 11 marked red, so before we get too far, it gets lost. Can someone look for exhibit 11?
It's the counties.
Yeah, but it has red on it. So I just don't want it to
No.
It's 11. Mark it up. That's
Oh,
what
that's
I need.
it.
That's the one I need. But did I say the wrong
It's
number?
not the one you showed me.
Oh. Yes.
Practicing your name, Mr. Lefebvre. Is that right?
Yep, that's
All right.
right.
I'm gonna hand out what we've marked as exhibit B. You've already seen a copy of this as the Tony's exhibit 8, I believe. But just because I think it'll be easier to work with this, and then I'll just ask to take judicial notice of the ordinance that you also already have. I've got a copy for each of you, since I'm gonna ask you about that. Right, so I'm gonna ask you to look at what's marked first as exhibit B, which is the denial that you sent to Mr. Lindeman. Do you see where the denial language states that the chapter 27 allowance is for gazebos, decks, patios, and greenhouses? Do you see that in the
Yep.
denial? Okay, so then I'm gonna ask you to look at chapter 27 of the Shoreline Zoning Code, which I also just pointed out, specifically section 6.1.1B, which is what, did you get a copy of that? I think you just handed it out, but
I
I'm
have
gonna,
one here.
okay.
Of
Okay, and
our-
that's, you recognize that as the section that you cited to in your denial, correct?
Yes,
Okay, do you see the word such as in the ordinance,
I do.
indicating that the exemption does not apply only to gazebos, decks, patios, and greenhouses?
I
Do
do.
you acknowledge that the ordinance is written differently than what your denial states?
I do. I paraphrase in my email.
Okay, and do you see further the language applying the exemption to structures that satisfy the requirements in Wisconsin statute? Those 4 factors that we talked about before that are in Wisconsin statutes 59.692.
Can you restate the question? I missed it.
Oh, so I'm just asking him to point out the language applying the exemption, and I'm sorry, I was not clear. The language in the ordinance that refers back to the Wisconsin statutes. So that your ordinance applies those Wisconsin statutory standards.
I do.
Okay, thank you. So in your capacity as assistant zoning administrator, would you normally regulate a matter that's set by a statewide zoning standard more restrictively than the statewide shoreline zoning standard does?
We do not.
Okay. Is there any other basis that you stated in your denial, for the denial of the special zoning permission, other than this issue that it is not a gazebo, deck, patio, or screenhouse?
It's not an open-sided or screen structure.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you now to look at the exhibit that is the county, it was the county's final exhibit. It was the letter from the DNR, Mr. Dale Rezabeck. Did you include Mr. Lindeman in any of or myself in any of the correspondence that you had with the DNR on this?
No, we received this yesterday.
Okay, so it's fair to say this hasn't been shared with us ahead of time.
As of
We're seeing this for the first time now. I'm gonna ask you, you read it very, very nicely. I won't ask you to read it again, except to call your attention to the part of the letter here, acknowledging that the structure indeed has a side. Is that fair to say? It's at the very end of the main paragraph in the letter. So Mr. Rezabeck is acknowledging that the structure has a side. Would you
Correct.
agree?
Yes,
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Lefebvre, in the email that you sent to Attorney Landretti dated July 18th, 2023, did you state that the county would not grant special zoning permission for the structure in violation?
correct.
And did that again reference the fact under the Shoreline Zoning Act, section 6.11B, that under 1B3, the structure that is the subject of the request has no sides or has open or straight sides?
Correct.
Is that why you use the word structure? Will not grant special zoning permission for the structure in violation?
Correct.
You're trying to use the language as referenced in the code. And
I'm
again,
sorry, was that?
in the
yes?
code.
No, was that a yes?
Yes, correct.
And then it goes, again, your position is, this retaining wall has sides,
Has closed sides, yes. Does not
does not have open
sides.
sides. And the closed side, well, could be seen from the neighboring property as well as from
As it
the
views-
lake,
Yeah, as it views around, yes.
if you're in a boat.
It's almost in a horseshoe pattern if you look down.
Do you even know how high this wall is?
No, we haven't measured it. I would just take a guess, judging on the person standing on it, at least 5 feet tall.
I just have one other, I'm sorry.
Here.
I have one other witness.
That's fine.
I called Carrie Rowe. Can you please state your name for the record and spell your name?
You want me sworn in first?
Did you raise your?
No.
Sally swear statements about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes,
State your name and address.
Kerry Rowe, 112 Otter Ave, Oshkosh.
And are you the zoning administrator for Winnebago County?
Yes,
How long have you been zoning administrator?
15 years.
And before that, did you also work in the Winnebago County zoning department?
Yes,
Roughly how long have you worked in the Winnebago County zoning department?
38 years.
So you have a lot of experience.
Yes,
Were you involved in the decision to deny the request for special zoning permission to put in a retaining wall?
yes.
How were you involved in the decision?
Daniel brought the matter to me to discuss the facts and determine an outcome for final answer.
And what sections, or what did you rely on to reach your determination?
Our shoreline zoning code.
And are you of the opinion, based on your nearly 4 decades of experience, that this retaining wall that you've seen marked in Exhibit 1 has a side?
Yes,
It does not have an open side.
correct.
And the DNR also believes and shares the same opinion with you.
Yes,
So since it has a side and does not have an open side, would you say it is not an exempt structure under the code of the statute?
correct.
I have no further questions.
I have a couple questions since we've established your nearly 4 decades of experience. I just want to ask how many of those, how often are, well, let me back up and ask if you're familiar with 2015 Act 55 that
Yes.
created this. How many of these types of situations have you had where you're giving an opinion on whether something has an open side?
This is the first time I've had to give that opinion.
Okay, thank you. And, okay, that's all.
I have no further questions.
I have a question. Anyone here can answer it. In regards to a retaining wall, we've granted variances, numerous variances for retaining walls in the past. What would constitute an open side on any retaining wall we ever give a variance for?
There would be no such open side on a retaining wall.
Can I?
Okay.
Rick, can I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
Can you have a structure with only one side, or does the structure imply more than one side?
Depends on the structure. It's similar to a fence, I guess that has 2 sides too. So subterraneanly, I guess a retaining wall would have 2
Two
sides.
sides, one is just covered somewhere with dirt. Yeah, okay.
And I guess I have no other questions. Anyone else? What are any questions? Anywhere witnesses here today?
I guess I do have one. At no time was there an application, a regular application for a variance to create this retaining wall?
A variance or a zoning permit. No.
Based on that question, would that be a possibility to apply for a variance for a retaining wall of this nature?
It would be the applicant's right to apply for a variance. Of course, any structure in the state of Wisconsin within shoreline zoning has that right.
I just have a procedural housekeeping issue then if you've asked all of your questions, because of course we have fact witnesses here tonight, but I think this really hinges on a legal issue. And what I'd like to do is propose a briefing schedule. I'd like to respond to what Dan just said, defining, his statement that a retaining wall would never qualify, that, well, I won't get into making the legal arguments now, but what I'd like to do is have the opportunity to make the legal arguments, because we just have fact witnesses so far, and I'd like to present the arguments. And especially given that DNR has rendered a decision. I was a staff attorney for many years, and I'd like to respond to a DNR for many years, and I'd like to respond to the appropriateness, for example, of a shoreline specialist interpreting a Wisconsin statute. Those kinds of legal issues, I'd like to have a chance to respond to. If there's some way we could have a briefing schedule, that would be my request.
So, yeah, I'm not an attorney, obviously. Are you asking to have a briefing schedule in front of the Board of Adjustment or just the attorneys?
No, in
Or
other words,
how would that work?
the attorneys would write legal arguments.
Correct.
And then the Board of Adjustment would consider essentially the papers before rendering its decision, because I know you stated that you're gonna make a decision by next Thursday,
Mhm.
which you typically do. But I will say, I mean, this is an interesting issue, as Mr. Rowe indicated, this is the first time something like this has come up.
So would you like to request an adjournment of this hearing then this evening? And then,
We don't even need, I don't think we have the fact witnesses, we could just submit the legal memorandum.
okay, next question, would you like more time to do that versus next week, Thursday? Would that be
Well, I
enough time?
know Attorney Landretti is already prepared, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and it's fair that I would give you a chance to see it. I
It's
just
up to you
wasn't sure
guys. I don't wanna do-
procedurally how we would do it. I could distribute it now. I would love to, if we are gonna set a schedule, I'd love to be able to respond to the DNR letter, because I just saw that for the first time tonight. So maybe I would add that argument to it if we could set a briefing schedule.
No, this is not on our schedule. Can we post that as a special session?
That's not a meeting of the
No.
board.
It's
It's just
literally
them.
a report.
But no, I'm just
Oh,
talking
you're
about
talking
delaying the
The
deliberative.
decision,
Yes.
yeah.
Would we have to post that somewhere, or, because it's not on our schedule that we approved, obviously.
Oh, that
So
doesn't
it'd go
matter.
on the next deliberative most likely.
So that would be in December, or actually January.
January, it'd be in January.
Would that schedule work for you? If you had a couple weeks, maybe I could have a week to tweak this
Mhm.
based on what we heard tonight. I think I would go first naturally, and then you could respond.
Reply. I mean,
Well timed out too, so it's after the holidays, the next deliberative. So,
Do you have the date on that, Dan, by chance?
I don't.
You guys get
We could
scheduled for next year.
I didn't bring the calendar.
Not, I
with me.
can take you up there.
public notice already been
No,
posted
I think
for-
you can just
Oh,
schedule a different
that's fine.
deliberative date.
As long as you. give
No notice
sufficient
should have gone
notice.
out. If you could agree on a new deliberative date. And that could just be posted as a deliberative date, I
It
believe.
looks like January 6th would be the next one.
Yes, January 6th, no. Hold on. Yeah,
Oh, I'm in the wrong year. January 4th.
January 4th at 7:30 is our next deliberative, well, two deliberative now. We have this deliberative coming up. and We have January 4th. It's Thursday morning, 7:30.
General code. Is there a time frame to make a decision?
Yeah, there is.
After the hearing.
Yes, there is a time frame.
Can't think of what it is.
Maybe there isn't. Yeah. Anyway, you guys can continue.
Would that be changed by mutual agreement?
Yes.
Um,
That's just a proposed schedule that was approved.
That's true.
We'd be willing to waive any timely appeal rights we have or timely decision rights we have to be able to brief this.
Okay, so, January 4th would work for everyone?
I hate to, do you have, what is your next date? Do you meet once every 2 weeks?
No, our next, our next deliberative wouldn't be until January.
January 4th.
Yeah,
So then the next one wouldn't be until February?
after
Right.
January.
It's once a month.
For the deliberative, we meet, once a month for that, once for the hearing, once for the viewing, so 3 times a month, only once a month for a deliberative.
Okay, could you combine one of them for, in other words, do you typically meet on Tuesdays or Thursdays or?
Our hearings are typically on a Tuesday evening and the deliberatives are typically on Thursday morning, the following Thursday morning.
So you have a deliberative on January 2nd?
No, not as right now, we don't, on the 4th. No. Nothing scheduled, I'm aware of. Coming up.
Actually, that's special orders for county boards, so I'm not available.
The 4th, January 4th.
No, the 2nd, but you're not.
No.
No, no.
So the 4th, what is the meeting after the 4th?
That's it. That's
You
the
would-
next
But the
deliberative.
thing is, the deliberative, you are not allowed to speak.
No, I understand that.
You can submit anything you want to us prior to the deliberative, but you're not allowed, you're allowed to attend if you would like, but you're not allowed to give any input. So, anything you wanted to draft or bring to our attention,
That's my concern. I might need a little bit more time.
Need no later than 40 days.
From today?
Yeah, they have to render a decision.
So, fine, we'll do January, is 40 days from now, certainly within January 4th, right? Because today's what, November
Yes,
28th?
it'll be just.
Does it help if I submit mine sooner than a week from now?
No, I think, yeah, actually it would. It would. If you, so, well, today is Tuesday, November 28th. That's what I
That's
was
what I
thinking.
suggested initially. Yeah, we don't have to wait for a set one.
But now it's 40 days and you're not gonna do it.
Well, I mean, you got to stay with, you would have to stay within the 40-day window. I'm saying you could do it 2 weeks from now or whatever.
A week
No.
after January 4th.
That's what I'm
example.
saying,
Oh, I
January
see.
11th. No,
that'd be
That'd be
far,
beyond
that'd be beyond 40 days.
when is the 40th day
After,
From today.
from
we
today?
have 2 days, would be, that's too far, so it's the 8th.
I would push it down to 6th and 7th
The 6th or 7th.
of January. From today.
Well, 6th or 7th would be a Saturday or Sunday, right?
Well, as far as you could go, probably
Could
the
we do
5th.
the 5th? No, but you're meeting on the 4th. so it's-
I can just submit mine.
Well, you,
The 7th, January 7th is the 40th day, so which is a weekend. It's a Sunday. So it
Okay.
has to be done
by the 5th,
no later than the 5th
that's fine.
of January.
So let's just say they'll be submitted on, the 5th. That's fine, we'll use January 5th.
If-
Can I see a
So
sample
if
of
you
what you've
guys-
done? I
yeah.
mean, I'm just,
Oh,
I'll be
sure.
honest with you, not that this is, I have 3 attorneys in my office. We have had 12 Court of Appeals briefs prepared this year.
Oh, my
Okay,
goodness.
while Milwaukee County has had 2.
Oh,
Okay.
my goodness.
So we have a lot of appeals going. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It's not us,
Yeah.
it's not them.
Yeah.
So
We
that's
don't want
fine.
it to be
January 4th
Oh, that being said.
at 7:30.
It's very simple. I-
I mean, am I
Four
looking at a
pages.
25 page?
No, 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 no.
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me.
We're-
Hold it, everyone, quiet, please. I'll entertain a motion to change our deliberative date for this hearing from Thursday, December 7th to Thursday, January 4th. Motion to that effect.
Trucial, so moves.
Second.
Motion made second to change our delivery date from December 7th to January 4th, 2024. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Motion carries.
I have 4 more appeals I have to write before the end of the year.
You better get going. Anyone else, anything I'd like to say for or against this appeal? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this. public hearing.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to adjourn the public hearing for November 28th, 2023. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.